Office gossip. It's like a double chocolate sundae with marshmallows and Smarties served in a bowl made of fudge. It can be delicious, but it probably isn't that good for you. Today, we look at the negatives associated with office gossip and what you can do to wean yourself off of it. Theresa Jabbour is a senior consultant with Mark Kamin and Associates. She's here to help us with that particularly tough task. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
It is delicious. It's juicy. We know we probably shouldn't, but it feels good sometimes. Tell us what gossip is and how it differs from just a little bit of a dish. When does it enter negative territory?
Well, Bruce, I would say it's negative when it's damaging to other people. So if I'm talking about you and I say, Bruce is just the funniest guy, he's so sweet, I love him, I wouldn't consider that gossip.
Well, that's all there would be to say about me, I think, right? There'd be nothing else to say. But you're saying if someone said, I noticed Bruce, he just doesn't seem to be on time, or he doesn't really know, what it takes to do that, then that would be negative.
It's negative, it's undermining, it damages your reputation.
And what does it say about you if you're the communicator of the gossip?
Well, what it says, basically, is that you're not trustworthy, because if you're going to gossip about Bruce, you're going to gossip about anybody. So people will just not trust you.
In terms of that line, when it is dishy and when it is actually gossip, any other guidance that you'd have so that people know when they've crossed it?
Well, I think that if you look from, would I be willing to say this in front of the person? If you wouldn't be willing to say it, or if you'd be embarrassed if they heard you saying it, that's probably a good indication that it's gossip. When
there is a workplace issue, often we go to the people in the cafeteria hanging around the water cooler stereotypically and tell that story. You would probably say that there is another person that communication should get delivered to.
Yes.
Tell us about your view as an expert in this realm.
Well, what you should do is you should go to somebody that can do something about the problem. So, you know, sometimes the thing you're gossiping about is legitimate. It's a legitimate complaint you have, but it's got to go to somebody who can actually do something about it.
And what would you say to prepare someone for that? I mean, that is the harder task. The easier task is to hang out by the water cooler. The harder one, it seems, is to get it resolved.
Well, I think if somebody gossiped to you, Bruce, and you started to say, you know what, I'm probably the wrong person to talk to, you should talk to so-and-so, then what you'd be doing is you'd be creating a whole new culture in your company, and you would start to emerge as a real leader.
In many companies, in many cultures, gossip just goes with the territory. If you're one of those people who says, you know what, I recognize the damaging effects that it has, and I want to do something different, how do you turn the tide? It can be a fundamental element to bonding in many cultures.
Yes.
And you're not playing anymore, you're a spoil sport.
Right.
What do you do?
Well, again, you know, you could say that leadership is lonely. So if you start doing something that the rest of the people don't do, like I said, you will start to emerge as a sort of leader and create a whole new culture. And, you know, it might be uncomfortable initially, but, you know, it just really depends what your intentions are. You know, if your intention is to, like, really build a great career for yourself, you want to start looking at your workplace as your opportunity to make a difference, to make a contribution, rather than a place to hang out and go with the flow.
Is there a way to vent responsibly? Is there a way to pull someone aside, maybe at another company, and just have your vent session where you say all the stuff that you don't want to say at the water cooler because you know it's denigrating to the company? Is that an avenue?
Well, I suppose if you didn't say the person's name, you said there's this person, and whatever I'm saying isn't true about them. It's just, this is my, you know, my interpretation of them. This is something bothering me, I suppose. But you know what? I think the most powerful thing to do is go to somebody who can do something about it, or go to the person, actually, and have a conversation with them. And, you know, that's a little risky, you know, so one of the things we do in our companies, we train people in communicating. Communicating can be risky, but it always, you know, if you stick with it, creates a whole new possibility where there wasn't one before.
What about the issue of productivity in a workplace? Is there a hit to productivity because people are spending their time gossiping about something else?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. The hit to productivity is that the gossip actually starts to damage the company. And people start talking about stuff that isn't forwarding the intentions of the company. It's if you just look at the conversations, they're not intrinsic to what's going to have the company fulfill its missions and objectives.
Gossip, as we talk about it, you reference the word truth. A lot of what gets spun at the water cooler isn't necessarily true, or even if the facts are true, the interpretation can be a grand extension of the original intent. How do you deal with that? How do you put something right where inaccuracies are being communicated in the workplace?
Well, it just depends on who the you're talking about. So if I was listening to a conversation of gossip, and I wanted to be somebody in a company that really made a difference, I would deal with it right there, and I would say, look, what you're saying isn't necessarily factual, or what you're saying isn't, it's not making a difference to this particular individual. It's damaging their reputation.
Can be a really hard notion to put forth and have people be willing to take a stand like that.
Yeah, it might be. But you know what? I think that, people do want to do the right thing, and people will respect it. I mean, that's what I've seen, is people do respect it.
So no double chocolate sundaes?
No, well, there are, but it's just in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Theresa, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Theresa Jabbour, Senior Consultant with Mark Kamin and Associates.